This is a part of a willow tree. What happens when the willow grows? It wants to branch fairly soon after it starts growing. So a well looked after tree, you have to take the buds off in early April, May time, when it starts to sprout, to make sure it keeps going as straight as you can. Because the straighter bits are the ones that make the best bats. Obviously if they're bent, the grain's bent. If they have shoots growing to branches, then you have knots. So hopefully a normal willow tree will grow to about 2 rounds, but if you look after it well, it'll go to 3 or maybe even 4 rounds.
So is the best willow in the middle or the outside?
Probably the second. The bottom one tends to get
moist
growth, well, a lot of vegetation around it.
Yeah, I can visualise it already. It's like that.
Yeah, stuck him out.
And what happens then, if it gets a lot of vegetation around it, nettles and that sort of stuff, then it might start to have little sprouts. It thinks it's underground, it starts to have little roots come out, so then you get marks in the back that look like what they call cat's paw. So this is, it starts its life really with a piece of wood is what they call it, a set is put in, which is about 12 foot high, about that wide. You just make a hole in the ground, stick it in, and willow just grows. Doesn't need any
special.
No.
Whereabouts do you grow most of the willow?
Well, it'll only grow in England, fortunately, but it's there's a lot in Essex, there's some in Nottinghamshire, there's some in Somerset, but it doesn't grow beyond Yorkshire really. There's a bit in Durham, but not a lot, and it doesn't grow over into Wales either, or Cornwall, and it won't grow anywhere else. So they've tried it in Australia and New Zealand.
Really?
Doesn't work?
No. There's quite a technical reason for that, which I won't go into because you've got to get to the ground. But so when that, you can see that's the middle of the tree. Well, it's not the middle. That's where the rings start. You see how off centre it is. So, and a ring is the year's growth. So a grain on there, that's 1 year's. It's grown that much in a year. So the wider grains are quicker growing. The narrow grains are slower growing.
Right.
Okay. Now, from the same tree, obviously each year is the same. So that's only grown that much, and that's grown twice as much. So what will the grains look? Which have the narrow grains on it. Correct. And you can see they're quite narrow. Can't really see.
But these
they're ever so narrow there.
See how tight they are there.
Yeah, and they may be so narrow that actually the wood may turn out to be too brittle. So you get some of the bats out of this bit. We can see in a tree, if the trees grow like that, and say that's grown, taken 15 years to grow, and that's taken 20 years to grow, then that'll have quite wide grains compared to that.
So would this be
Some.
heavier or denser?
This tends to be heavier and denser. That's the problem with picking the best bats out, because naturally the narrower grains are heavier, denser,
Right.
because it's stronger.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
It's
you want
stiffer,
it, but
so it
you
goes
want it
better.
lighter.
Yes.
You just can't win.
No. So
It's a fine
bat
balance.
making is a great art to it.
Yeah.
And finding the supreme blade is quite like hen's teeth. It's quite difficult.
Yeah.
So how many bats would you get out?
Well, that particular one's, well, the way it's been marked at 12. What we're actually doing on this is, why this one's on its own here, is that we saved it from the ones we were doing, and looking to see how we can make, how many we'd get out if we made the blades bigger, because people, particularly you guys, want these great big bats, and out of a standard blade you can't make them, because it's only 80 mil. Some of your bats are like 70, 71, 72 mil. Well, you've got to cut off a bit off to start with, then you press it down by 3 mil, and shape it, and you see that it's actually 80 is not enough to make about that size. So we're just working out on this one.
So it could go down to like 10.
Yeah, maybe 8.
Less, 8, yeah.
Then of course, if we did that in production, we'd be losing a lot of bats.
Yeah.
So we've got to. It's quite an interesting. It's quite cool way to look at it. Yeah. Okay, so that's how it starts off. The heartwood is the inside of the wood, and that you can see the colour on the back there. That's darker. That's the red. That's the inside of the tree. Okay. That tends to be, although it tends to be harder, it also tends to be brittle, more brittle. So
But it's
If it so
everyone
you should be having inside edges, not outside edges.
Yeah.
But Ross, you seem to be doing the opposite way around. I don't know why.
yeah, it's just I'm just strange. Full stop, really.
So what I'm saying, we split it simply by hitting. We have to follow. You see that deep cut there? We have to follow that because you don't want that in them. That's why Slazenger's at one time tried working out to do it in a sawmill. And of course, you have that in the middle of a bat, it's useless. It's got a split straight in the middle of it. So you have to follow
Work
that.
it out.
Then you follow that, and
And cut it up from there.
yeah. So on something like that, you might get a men's there and a boys there,
Right.
if you're lucky. But maybe not. That's going to be touch and go. It's 5 inches. That needs to be 10 inches. That's over 10 inches.
Might be a chance.
Yeah, it might be a chance. Trouble is that looks better wood than that, so you might decide to go for just a good men's.
But
out in the middle.
yeah.
So who decides the willow? You?
Yeah, we buy willow partly in tree form,
Yeah.
partly we buy it from a merchant that comes in the clefts that you can see over there. They come in like that. So that's the start of the process, and then throughout we do the whole thing here. We don't send anything away. It's all done in this
From
factory.
start to finish.
Yeah,
From there to there.
yeah, great.
Perfect.
Yeah.